Okay, so I've been practicing a number of piano speed drills, and I've been learning from this one video by Pianote, which is actually, yeah, since it's piano, so Pianote. They have a very good video on piano speed drills. And so I've been practicing for a few weeks now. And one of the things that they show you is they show you this thing where,
Same goes with the left. Then tuck those little fingering changes.
let me just
So that first
jump to
finger
the
to my
part.
fifth finger, which is a sixth, to not as far as I want to go.
Right? So what they're doing is something like this. It's first these two, right? So first the outer two, then the inner two, then the middle, and then it repeats. But I managed to get the thing up to a pretty fast speed, and I want to explain all the little things that they didn't have time to explain because they're trying to keep it short. So we're going to just take when I was absolutely clumsy. In fact, I'll show you this on my other hand. Okay, well, damn it. Okay, there. When you start out, you're going to be really clumsy, and I'm going to explain all the little sub breakdowns, all the stuff that gets that in between that gets left out. Okay, so one of the things I find with fingers is that very often, like these last three fingers, they kind of like if I move my pinky down, like you'll notice that the ring finger kind of wants to go down. So it's like there's ligaments in here which need to be stretched. They need to be stretched, and when you're trying to get good at a piano, part of it is physical conditioning. In this case, the physical conditioning of your hands and forearms. And one of those problems is ligament conditioning. So if you were to try to like do middle and pinky, this is kind of a difficult thing to pull off because this finger always wants to get involved, and it took me a while to even get to that point where I can where I can do that. Right? You're gonna try it and you're gonna be like, oh my god, right? Your fingers want to do this. Right? That ring finger is always gonna want to go along for the ride. Then there's also like a bit of mental conditioning where our brain wants to do, right? It doesn't want to alternate. It doesn't want to. So, these are all things that have to be overcome. The other thing is how you actually hit those keys, because it's one thing to just put the keys down, but it's how you get the keys down in the first place. So in this case, for the alternation, I use a wrist rotation. And the other thing is that when you're looking at things like speed, like if you watch what's that guy's name? Fan Chen, right? Fan Chen does like the rush E thing, and he's able to play that key really. So there's other things that I found out, like on this piano keyboard. This is a fully weighted keyboard, and you'll notice that if I go slowly, there's kind of a rate, there's a bounce, right? The key comes back at a certain bounce. It's like dribbling a basketball. Like I would call this key dribbling. So he's able to use his fingers. He's kind of. I'm just trying to do two notes in quick succession. Did you hear that? All right, it did the double note just now. There. Then you do three. I got three there. So your piano, if you're going to do a key dribble, it's actually specific to the piano, and it's based on the rebound rate of the key. It's not something you just do and it just happens. You need to calibrate your dribble to the rebound rate of the key. So it's like there's so many like little details that people leave out, right? When it comes to doing something as simple as there's all these little details that you get left out. And so okay. So when I do something like this, it's not one action. If you want to get good at something like this, you have to break it down into many, many, many little actions, and you become good. You have to work on every single one of those separate actions. And so, and then when you can string all those actions together, then, you just get good at the whole thing. So I'm hitting 5 keys, and there's a repeat. So, right, that's one key. That's one action right there. Then there's so every single transition from one key to the next, that's one thing I have to get good at. Then I have to get from good to go from here to here quickly. Then those are two key transitions. Then so that's a 3 key transition. So then I have to go. Then this one's easy because it's practically a drum. It's like drumming your fingers, and then without you're leaving this one out. You're trying not to do instinctively. You will. You're going to want to do that. So you have to train that out. Huh. So you can see I'm trying to get this into a quick. I'm training the phrase. And all along the way, it was very, very awkward for me to train each one of these individual steps. Eventually, I got to the point where I was doing something like this. Oops. I would get it up to here, and then there would be kind of a brain barrier where it would be a delay before I repeated it. Right? Like there'd be like a brain barrier. And then there would be another brain barrier where it would take time for me to repeat the thing. Like now everything's pretty oiled out because of practice. I've found all the sticking points, all the brain barriers, and I've eroded them to the point where now. So getting past that final brain barrier of the repetition, what I did was I took a recording. I took a recording like this. Right? I took several recordings. I found one that was good. Then I purposely adjusted them all on the note grid, and then I duplicated them across and repeated it so that I would hear. I did this so that I could hear what a perfect example would be, so that because the problem is that when you do it and you're getting stuck on brain barriers, your mind expects to hear a certain sound out of it, and if it expects to hear just 5 notes and then it stops, then that kind of keys into your reflexes. So then what I did is I played that to myself. I got used to how it would sound, and then I would have to get my hand to coordinate with the mental sound of it. So from and also that was also useful in that it taught me the sound of regularity. Because it's not enough to just hit the keys in sequence and be really fast, but you want regularity as well. And that's where I'm at now, is I'm trying to train regularity and then improve speed. It's kind of crazy. And then from this, once I get that finger sequencing good, then I'm going to take on advancing this another step, which is to include a space here. Then I can do right. That's like another little weight, right? You just keep stacking up one weight after the next to try and improve incrementally, right? If you try to do too much at once, my shitty brain can't handle it. And that's why people often find that when they practice, they're like not getting any better and they're just getting frustrated. And they're like, I'm trying to do exactly what they told me to do. And it's like, because they couldn't split up the task into little dumb manageable steps and then practice that. And like she says, do it 5 minutes a day for several weeks and you'll get really good at it. And that's technically accurate. But the thing is my 5 minutes a day, which actually turned out to be more like 10 minutes, it's a trick. Okay. She tells you to do it for 5 minutes a day just so you get started, so your brain doesn't think, oh no, I had to do an hour's worth. All right. The hardest part of doing any of these exercises is getting started. She just wants you to get started. And then your brain, once you're sitting there and practicing, don't worry, inertia will take care of the rest, and you'll wind up practicing for longer. You'll practice until your hands get tired, basically. That's how I did. I would just practice for as much time as I could until my hands got tired. And then the next day I'd do it. Or sometimes in the middle of the day, I would get stuck at work. I would get stuck on a problem and I'm like, okay, I need a break. So I would practice it then. Right. And then there's other problems. Like, so you figure out things like wrist rocking. You find other things like ways to improve, I don't know, like if you can do there's so many ways to get the key to go down, right? You can wrist rock it, you can finger actuate it, you can keep your fingers somewhat curled like this. Like I'm just literally just relaxing. This is a natural relax. And then that's a I'm just, and then you also do things like, use your elbow, right? You can use your elbow to exert some additional force. So eventually, I got to the point where I didn't have to think so hard about it. And the other thing is that I talk about things like these little, mind locks, right? Your brain kind of throws up these little brain barriers, right? Your brain puts up these little barriers where it's like, oh, I want to hit the keys just right, and I want to make sure I don't trigger the wrong finger. And what happens is your hand actually kind of locks up a little bit, and the locking up means like there's going to be some nerve impulses firing to make the finger go down, and there's going to be some that are going to be saying, wait, not that finger. and that fighting will tire your hands out. And I noticed that when I see a lot of professional players playing, they look like, there's this stuff doesn't look like it takes any energy. And it turns out, I think most of the energy that gets used up is not like, you're getting tired not because you don't have enough finger strength. You're getting tired because your body is sending two different signals. One is a restraint signal, and it's like saying, hold on, wait. And the other one is saying, go. And it's the fighting of those two signals, of those two competing muscle groups, that's going to tire out your fingers. And the more you do this stuff and the more you kind of break past the brain barriers and you become comfortable with it, the more relaxed your hand comes and the less energy it consumes. So now it's pretty fast and pretty easy. And like, I don't feel like my hands have gotten any stronger. My grip strength has not gone up or anything like that. It's just, it's much more relaxed if anything. And you don't just, like people say, oh, you're too tense, you need to relax. It's like, well, that is not an actionable thing, right? It's like it's like me telling somebody, okay, go to sleep, right? Somebody with insomnia, it's just, you need to go to sleep, right? You just fall asleep. You're in bed, fall asleep. You can't, right? Because sleep's not an actionable thing. It's a set of conditions that you foster. You foster the conditions under which sleep is possible. And hopefully, under the right conditions, you will fall asleep if all conditions are met. Usually what happens is there's some condition like, your thoughts are racing around your head and there's some, exciting thing going on that's keeping you awake. Or, you got a shitty sleep schedule, or you're hungry or whatever. Like there's many things, right? But falling asleep is about fostering the right conditions for sleep to occur. And it's the same thing when you're trying to relax your hand. You have to foster the conditions necessary for you to actually relax. And one of those is just boredom. And boredom comes from Familiarity. And familiarity comes from
Practice.